Welcome back, I'm George, and in this video I'm going to show you the first things you need to do on your new Samsung Galaxy S26. I have functionalities, I have customization settings, and much more, so let's not waste any time and get right into the video. The first thing you need to do on this phone is to come right here to the Samsung store where you can download apps. Then tap right here on the search bar and look for Good Luck, which is a small app made by Samsung, and then tap on download. As you can see, mine's already downloaded, so I'll tap here on play. And then once you're in the app, you want to download Home Up, which is sort of an expansion pack with more settings that you can find scrolling down on this list. Of course, by default, it is not going to be all the way at the top. You have to look for it and tap here to download, and then it will show up at the top. And once you have it downloaded, you have to tap on that app, then enable gesture settings right here, then tap on gesture settings and enable both home gesture animation tuning and app open animation tuning. So for home gesture animation, we can choose between classic, elegance, dynamic, and sweet, which would be different speeds for closing apps and getting to the home page. You'll probably see that by default it is set to classic, but if you want things to be faster, you can tap on dynamic, and as you can see, the animation is now a lot faster. But if you still feel like dynamic is too slow, you can tap on simple tuning and then scroll all the way to fast. Then you'll see it is even faster than with the dynamic option. And well, more or less the same goes for app open animation. As you can see, by default, it is going to be set at around 50 moderate speed, but you can speed it up to fast or even very fast. So the app opening animation is faster than it is by default. As you can see, it is now very fast. And if we set it all the way to the max, it is going to be instantaneous. But anyway, that being said, let's now come here to the main settings page and scroll down to the battery subsection. Of course, one of the most important things to do on this phone is to get as much battery life as possible and to make your battery as healthy as possible. The first thing you have to do is to scroll down to power saving, turn it on, and select maximum. Ideally, you want to never enable this feature. It is for emergencies, but if you do, I believe that standard is barely going to give you more battery life. It is with maximum where you get the most amount of battery time. As you can see, I'm not sure if you can see when it's disabled, but with standard, you get 4 days and 12 hours. And with maximum, you get 10 days and 10 hours. So it's more than double the amount of battery longevity, so to say, when you enable maximum. So if you're ever in a situation where you have 5% battery left and you really need your phone for like phone calls or something, enable maximum. Trust me, it is going to extend that 5% as much as possible. Now, that being said, and also here on the battery settings, if you tap on battery protection, what I actually suggest is that you turn it on all the time. So turn it on and tap on basic. Now there's another option here called maximum, which is better for battery health. But as you can see, you have to set a maximum charging for the battery and there's more compromises on it. And I don't really think it's worth it because with basic, you get a pretty decent battery protection for the phone to last you many years. And you don't really have to make any compromises. Now, if you really want to protect your battery so it lasts 10 years potentially, the best thing you can do is to tap on charging settings and disable fast charging and fast wireless charging. These two things are going to, yes, be nice to charge the phone fast, but are also going to burn your battery. They really heat up the phone, and that means the battery is going to degrade sooner, and that's not good. Now, generally what I do is to turn these features off and simply charge my phone at night when there's like plenty hours ahead. I don't need for the phone to charge fast. And I only enable this two settings when I'm in a rush. Maybe I need 30 minutes to charge my phone as much as possible. Well, then I turn them on, charge the phone, and then turn them back off. Now, that being said, if you really want to extend your battery life, the best thing you can do is to tap here on notifications, then app notifications, and disable every single app that you don't need to be sending notifications. As you can see, there's a very long list with all of your apps, and by default, most of them are going to be turned on. Of course, each of these apps is going to be connected to the internet, is going to be updating in the background, looking for new notifications, and it is going to be bothering you with notifications. So the least amount of apps you have on this list, the less battery consumption, the less annoying notifications. It is a win-win situation. So this is one of the most essential things you can do. Come here and enable the essential apps. Everything else, turn it off. And well, also here on the notification settings, if you tap on status bar, you can select between icons to see which apps are sending notifications to your phone. You can choose a dot, so you can only see that you have notifications with that little dot, or you can tap on none and you'll essentially see nothing, even if you have new notifications. Oh, and by the way, kind of weird, you also have this toggle that lets you switch between just seeing the battery percentage and seeing the battery percentage and battery icon. I'm not sure why it's here on notifications, but yes, if you want to see the cool battery icon, you can come here and enable show battery background. And of course, another one of the essential things to do on your new S26 is to come here to the main settings page, then swipe all the way to the bottom, tap on About Phone, and then tap on Rename, because as you can see, you can name the phone anything you want. Now, that being said, I advise you to be careful because when you share data or connect to other devices, everybody is going to see this name. So yeah, you can be funny with the name, but don't be too funny because everyone is going to see what you wrote in here. But anyway, that being said, and before we move on, now I actually have something for you watching this video. Okay, so a lot of you know me from this channel, whether it is in front of the camera or back there in the top-down shot. But right now, I'm actually building a new channel that's a little bit more ambitious, where I will be needing some extra help. More specifically, I'm looking for a co-host to be in front of the camera with me, and I'm looking for a videographer to shoot the videos. So if by any chance you're interested in being a co-host on a YouTube channel, or you are a videographer, send me an email to this address so we can talk. But anyway, that being said, let's now get back to the S26, because there is a lot more to cover. One of the coolest features on this phone is actually a new functionality that's only available on the S26 and S26 Ultra that is right on the camera app. If you come to the video section and then tap right here on this icon and select the maximum stabilization, you'll enable a mode that essentially lets you lock in the horizon when you're recording video, which may not seem that impressive, but is absolutely insane. So if you capture a video, if you record a video and then you just move your phone, whether it is just intentionally or because your hand is shaking, you'll see that the horizon is just not moving. The phone is just locked into my display. Even if I do this, the phone is not going to rotate. As you can see, when I'm playing the video, the motions that I did are not really showing. Like, it's completely locked straight, completely vertical, which is great for when you're running or doing something that's very shaky or you're moving, so you can capture steady video. But anyway, that being said, let's now move on to customization. The first thing I want you to do is to tap right here on any empty space on the home page, then tap on Wallpaper and Style, and then tap on the lock screen icon. As you can see, we can essentially customize every element of the lock screen. So starting with time and date, we can of course choose between different fonts. We can change the girth or density of that font, which by the way, there's some new fonts with animations. As you can see, they have unique animations when you open the phone. Then of course, you can also choose the color of that text, which I always recommend you set to auto because that's generally the one that best matches the background. And of course, you can also tap on style and select between different ways to display the time and date. Now, I think with these animated fonts, it is kind of limited. If you tap on the traditional font, there's going to be, as you can see, plenty more options to choose. You can choose a calendar, you can choose other information, the alarms, the clocks, whatever. And of course, you can also make it bigger, make it smaller, and move it around to customize the lock screen based on the wallpaper behind. Now, something a lot of people don't know is that if you tap here on Add Widgets, you can actually add mini widgets to your lock screen. So let's tap here on Battery, add maybe this one right here that's a little bigger, and then maybe add 2 small widgets, which I think is the maximum amount we can add. So it's 2 big ones or 4 small ones, or 1 big one and 2 small. And of course, if we tap here on the quick toggles at the bottom, we can change the functionality between these quick options right here, or something a lot of people don't notice, you can also scroll down and select between any app you have installed on the phone. So you could theoretically launch maybe Netflix right from your lock screen, or if you have any video games, you could launch those too right from the lock screen. Now you can also tap right here at the top left to change the wallpaper. Of course, you have the typical Samsung default wallpapers. Of course, you can also tap on Gallery and select any photo that's on your gallery. And you can also come here to Create with AI and create your own wallpaper. So as you can see, if you tap on Create with AI, you can choose Creative Studio, tap on Create Wallpaper, and then do what I said earlier. You can essentially describe what you want. Or if you want something a little easier, you can tap on Generative, and the phone is going to give you some templates. So you can maybe say, I want terrain, and then I want some, you can choose the coloring, and you can choose this and that. So it's a little bit more easy because the phone gives you a template, sort of like a base. But yeah, generally you can create as many options as you want using AI. And it's also pretty fast. As you can see, in a couple seconds, it gives me 4 different options. And well, if I like any of them, I can choose them. Or if I don't, I can tap on Generate, and it's going to keep trying until I like what it gives me. But anyway, that being said, let's now move on to probably the weirdest feature on this phone. I'm going to show you how to improve your fingerprint scanner in a very particular way. So you have to come here to the settings page, the main settings page, then scroll down to Security and Privacy, then scroll down to Screen Lock and Biometrics. Of course, it is going to ask you for your password. Let's tap on Done, then tap on Fingerprints, and then you have to delete the fingerprints you have on your phone. Trust me, doesn't matter, you can introduce them once again, but you have to do this because we have to reintroduce them in a very particular way. So what you want to do is you want to actually use 2 fingers at the same time. In this case, I'm going to use my thumbs. So let's do one thumb, another thumb, the other one, and the other one. We actually want to do 50-50 ideally, so it is as even as possible between the 2 fingers. There we go. And once we're done with the first one, we are going to do the same thing again using the same 2 fingers. So in my case, it is the 2 thumbs. We're gonna do once again 50-50, and that's about it. Once that's done, your phone is going to have a faster and more reliable fingerprint sensor. As you can see, it barely takes a second, or well, a millisecond to open. You don't even have to actually hold it. You can just double tap. That is insane. Now, I'm not saying this is like 20 times faster. Of course, the default mode is also very fast, but this is a little bit faster and it is more reliable. So you'll notice that with this new method, there's less failure and there's less times when the phone doesn't recognize your fingerprint. But anyway, that being said, let's now come back here once again to the home page and scroll down to access the control center. For the first time ever on a Samsung phone, we can fully customize this menu right here. If we tap on the pencil, you'll see that now we have everything on edit mode and we can do whatever we want. We can make things smaller, we can move them wherever we want. We can even change from landscape orientation to vertical orientation for the volume and brightness controls. And of course, if we tap on add a control, we can add as many other controls as we want. They are going to stack on top of each other, as you can see, on any empty spaces or right here at the bottom. And well, it is an endless scroll. So if you add everything, you'll just have a very long list. Now, something you should know is that if you end up messing things up like I did here and things look weird, you can always come to Panel Settings and then tap on Reset Quick Panel Layout. Automatically, everything is going to go back to normal, so you can resume editing once again or just leave it as is, because I think it's a pretty decent layout. But anyway, that being said, it is time to talk about home screen customization. This year, we have some very interesting new features, especially when it comes to folders. As you probably know, by default, we get this type of folder right here that we have to tap and then open the app, which is fine. It is a great way to store many apps without taking up that much space. But now we can actually tap and hold, enlarge, and make a big folder, which you may think is a little stupid because it takes up more space. But it now actually lets you open apps directly without having to enter the folder first. So it is a great way to store many apps on your homepage, because that's not something that Samsung really lets you do by default. Now, something really great they've added this year is that if you tap and hold and then tap on Settings, you can change the color of that folder, but you can also change the opacity. So you can make the background invisible and really make it feel like you have small apps and big apps. So if you're going for that cluttered home screen with as many apps as possible, this is a great way to have that visibly without feeling like there's just folders. Now, that being said, if you tap and hold on the home screen and tap on Settings, as you can see, you can choose between the app size being, well, default right here, big or small, although the difference is not that big. So as you can see, this is the default mode and this is the big mode. It is not huge, it is just a little bigger. Then you can choose whether you want to show the app labels or not. So if you turn it off, there's not going to be any app labels at the bottom of apps, which can be nice if you're looking for a clean aesthetic. But if you're new to the phone, I don't really recommend it, because there's going to be some apps you don't really know and you want to see the name before you tap on the app. And well, also here on the home screen settings, you can also choose the home screen grid. So it is 4x6 or 5x6, so you can fit more things. You can choose the app screen grid, which once again, it is 4x6 or 5x6. And you can choose the folder grid, although in this case, it is either 3x4 or 4x4. Now, something really interesting here on the home screen settings is that if you tap on home screen layout, you can choose between having a home screen and app screen separately, which is the default mode where you have your home screen and then an app library with all of your apps. But you can also choose to blend both in a home screen only mode that essentially blends both. As I said, you have all your apps in the home screen, much like with iPhones back in the day where you just had the home screen with all of your apps. But anyway, that being said, let's once again come here to the Settings app and then scroll all the way down to Advanced Features. Here you'll see an option called Side Button, which is going to let you customize the side button, which you may also know as the power button. That lets you turn the phone off and then turn it on again. Now, as you can see, we have options for a double press or a long press. So if we tap on double press, we can essentially select a functionality. In this case, I think by default, you'll have the flashlight. So if you double press, you'll turn it on and off. But if you, for example, choose an app like Gemini, if you double tap, automatically you'll open Google Gemini. Now, that being said, it is mostly the same for the long press, although in this case, we can only choose between the digital assistant from Google, then we can choose Bixby, and we can choose the power off menu to power off the phone, which is something I don't recommend, by the way, because you can access that same power off menu by tapping volume down and power button at the same time. So it is a little redundant to also access the power off menu by just holding the power button on the side. But anyway, that being said, and once again back here on the main settings page, let's now scroll down and tap on Display. Here you'll see a bunch of settings to improve the quality of your display and also to save some battery life. For example, you can choose between light mode and dark mode, which is a matter of personal preference, but you should know that dark mode does save a little bit more battery life. So if you're trying to maximize your phone, then ideally you want to choose dark mode for the best results. Now you also have the option to select manual or adaptive brightness, and you have an option for extra brightness, which is really handy. If you've ever been outdoors in a sunny day and the sun's hitting your phone, you can't really see what's on the display, this is a lifesaver. You enable extra brightness, the phone goes max brightness automatically, so you'll be able to see what's on your display. Now, a little bit below, you have the option to choose the motion smoothness between adaptive at 120 Hz and standard at 60 Hz. And in this case, what I always recommend is that you try both, because there's a lot of people who don't really notice the difference between the two options. And in that case, it is always better to go for standard because you're going to save more battery life. Now, if you do notice the difference, I always recommend you select adaptive, because it is going to give you a better user experience, and it is one of the reasons this phone is so expensive, because it has 120 Hz. Now, a little bit below, we have the Eye Comfort Shield, which is one of my favorite features on the phone. It turns the display yellow, which may sound a little stupid. Why would I want my display to be yellow? But it actually helps you sleep at night. What this is doing is it's essentially kind of blocking the blue lights that are emitted from the display, so the phone doesn't confuse your brain thinking it's daytime and you have an easier time falling asleep. It's one of those things that people overlook, but trust me, it works. Now, a little bit below, we have the option to choose between two different screen modes, aka the traditional Samsung style of vivid and punchy colors, or natural, which is a more true-to-life color palette that is also a little bit less appealing. Now, of course, this is a matter of personal preference, but if you're trying to do professional work like photo editing, then I suggest you choose natural because it is more color accurate. Now, a little bit below, we have the option to select a screen timeout, which by default is set at 30 seconds. So your display is always turning off automatically. So I suggest you turn it all the way up to 10 minutes, which is the maximum screen timeout. Although I wish, Samsung, please listen. I wish there was a never option like on the iPhone. And of course, also here on the display settings, you can change your navigation mode from buttons, which is the traditional option to go back, to go home, and to access the multitasking menu, or the new gesture settings, so you can go back like this, home like this, and access the multitasking menu like that. Now, that being said, something very interesting you should know is that if you swipe down on the control center and then swipe down on this menu right here and tap on screen recorder, you can of course record your display like on any other phone, but you can also do a partial screen recording, which, like the name suggests, lets you select the area of the display you want to capture, and you'll only record that segment, which is really useful if you're trying to record a video or a TikTok or an Instagram photo or something, and you don't really want to capture everything else. And well, for everyone that likes circle to search, I have good news, because this year Samsung has improved this functionality. If we tap and hold on the bottom like this, and circle anything we want, like Brad Pitt, of course, we will get a tailored result like we had with previous iterations of circle to search, but now we have the AI mode. So Google Gemini is automatically going to tell you everything it knows about that image. So in this case, it tells you it's Brad Pitt, it tells you about his career and whatever. And you can also, if you tap on all and then tap on Ask Anything, you can get custom search results based on the image. So in this case, it identified Brad Pitt, so it's going to tell you about his net worth, his name, movies, his hair color, whatever, all the things that have to do with Brad Pitt. But if you, for example, once again, select, in this case, an app icon, and you tap on Ask Anything, there we go. It is going to say app download. What does this mean? Things that would have to do with an app. So yes, this essentially is tailored for the specific thing you've circled. And well, I could not leave the video without talking about the new phone features, because this is a phone And there's actually very impressive phone features on this phone. So let's tap on the phone app, then tap on the three dots right here and tap on settings. And first of all, let's cover call screening. As you can see right here, it is a feature that lets you answer calls with AI. So it is not you that's talking, but the phone AI. So the phone can get information on who's calling and what do they want before you hop in the call. Of course, this is not useful if your parents call you or someone that you actually know, but if you get a call from a weird number or an unknown number, this is incredible because you don't have to hang up on that potentially important call, but at the same time, you don't have to deal with spam, you don't have to deal with random calls from companies trying to sell you stuff. You can just let them talk to the AI. And well, also here on call settings, we can tap on live translate to essentially translate calls when a foreign person is calling you. Of course, if you talk to someone that also speaks your language, this is not useful. But if you get a call from someone from Brazil or Spain, you can quickly just, well, automatically actually, once you set this up, translate your voice to Spanish and their voice to English, so you can actually have a fluid conversation. So right here, you can choose your language, which would be English, and then you can choose the other person's language from a very big range of options, as you can see. Now you have to download the language package, so it is on your phone, but once you do, they are going to be options. So say you download everything and a person from Italia calls your phone, then you'll have the option to automatically translate their voice to English and your voice to Italian, so you can have a fluid conversation. But anyway, that being said, I believe that is everything I had for the S26. If you have any questions regarding anything that I said, please tell me down below. And if not, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you again very soon. Peace.